overall, Fusco was a -6. So Fusco was as bad as all other four of them were bad combined. And this has been a pattern throughout almost every game this season. Something needs to be done. I don't know what, if anything, they can or will do this year about it, barring an injury actually helping us out to Fusco. Sorry, I'm not wishing for anyone to get injured, at least not too severely. But next year, moving forward, either Fusco has to go back to right guard, or Fusco needs to get traded or cut, and we bring in, draft, sign, whatever, a new starting left guard, because he cannot be the starting left guard of this team after this season. Period. So overall, the offensive line, I want to say, where were we at? We had 14 and okay, here we go. We had -13 for the players and a +13 for the unit, evening out at a +0 for the offensive line overall. When we combine the individual rate grades along with the unit grades, we get a 23/23 +0, and that is what it felt like to me, and what it in all reality was looking back at the film. That's what our performance was from an offensive lineman standpoint. We weren't particularly good, but we weren't particularly bad either. Again, that was not where the game was lost outside of the penalties that the offensive line contributed. So now on to Teddy. Touchdown Teddy. Too much time for Teddy. Everybody loves Teddy. Responsible, as I mentioned earlier, for almost all those sacks. Started out fairly decent at the beginning of the game, then tapered off throughout the first half, and kind of likewise in the second half, more starting out strong and getting a little weaker, barring one drive towards the end. But so overall, Teddy had 17 pluses to 14 minuses, with a +3 overall grade. That's like a C plus. That's like a C, plus, a B minus, somewhere in there. Not terrible by any means, just under 300 yards, a great completion percentage, no interceptions, no turnovers on his part. The only turnover the Vikings had was an AP fumble, pretty sure. But so not a bad game for Teddy, but by no means a overly impressive game. Like I said, you can't give Teddy any better than a C plus, maybe a B minus for his performance this last week. But we can win. We can win every week with a debatable B minus performance from Teddy when we're playing our football and being who we are, which is a team that stops the run, doesn't give up points defensively, doesn't get called for penalties, and doesn't turn the ball over, and can run the ball. Those are all the things that we've been putting together and winning games with. And if Teddy's a B minus performance with all those ingredients, we win almost every week. Problem is we didn't have any of the ingredients this week. It was a complete all-around team loss. If that makes you feel better or worse, I don't know. As for AP, we mentioned the one fumble. That was his only minus on the whole film tape. He had 10 pluses to 1 minus. Actually pass blocked well a few times. Caught the ball out of the backfield as a receiver well once or twice. But only got to carry the ball 13 times. So you can't look at the rushing yards and go, oh, AP didn't have a good game. Well, AP didn't have a chance to have a good game. In the games that we have won, in all the games that the Vikings have won this year, AP is averaging between 23 and 24 carries a game. In all the games that we've lost, he's averaging 13, which is exactly what he got this past Sunday when we lost. So it is important to stay committed to the run. You got to remember, this is a game that just up until, the final 10 seconds in the first half was a 3-point, single digits on each side, 9-6 football game. Not a 30-point, output for one team. They weren't on pace for that at all. It was that last sequence of, 2 possessions for the Vikings and Packers in that second quarter, which happened very fast, except for the Packers' final possession, which ultimately led to a bunch of penalties on the Vikings and repeat third down opportunities and free first downs and a touchdown with just a couple seconds left to head into halftime, 17-6 as opposed to 9-6, because they went for 2 and got it as well. So just, tons of momentum killers. But AP, outside of the fumble, had a good game, +9. Jerick McKinnon, Asiata, the running backs overall were +12, 15 pluses, 3 minuses. Outside of the AP fumble, that was the only bad play the running backs had. So they, as a unit, played well. Tight ends, same deal, 8 pluses, 0 minuses as a unit. 4-0 for Rudolph, 3-0 for Rhett. Rudolph had a nice touchdown grab this week. A couple nice catches. I want to say he had 6 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown. Great game from Kyle Rudolph this week. And back to the running backs. The other 2 of their 3 minuses came from fullback Zach Line, failing to be a blocker because he's just not a very good run blocker. And when you're a fullback, that's sort of an important, factor, in my opinion. But anyway, so tight ends, running backs were both good. Quarterback was okay. Wide receivers, 8 pluses, 3 minuses. You want to see more total pluses, from an entire unit for that. But still +5, so mediocre. Mike Wallace was -1 at 1/2. That would be the alarming statistic from the Vikings receiving core. Diggs was 4/1. Jarius Wright was 3/0. Charles Johnson and Adam Thielen were non-factors, as well as Cordero Patterson was a non-factor. And that's your Vikings offense. Wallace was open one time on a deep route that Teddy just barely overthrew him. They still can't seem to get their timing right. I definitely believe that is more of just a deep ball accuracy issue with Teddy. However, there's got to be something that can be done to correct it. I don't know. But so, overall the offense was mediocre, but good enough to win a game. They didn't do anything to really totally, botch it other than penalties. But in addition to the penalties, there were just a few other quick offensive stats that we'll mention here real quick. Third down conversion percentage, 5 of 13. That needs to improve. Rushing the ball, we actually ran the ball for almost, 5.2 yards per carry in that Packer game, and everybody was complaining about how, Eddie Lacy ran for 100 yards. They ran the ball on us. They averaged 3.6 yards per carry is all, running the ball against us. The difference was they did it over 30 freaking times, and we did it less than 20. So that was the difference there. Let's see what else. Again, the total passing yards are nice, but they only allow a win to take place if they don't come at the expense of the rushing yard totals. Our rushing yard totals are definitely more indicative of whether we win or lose the game than our passing yard totals. So if Teddy's only throwing for 200 yards a game or less, that's a good sign probably. That's a sign that we're running the ball and likely winning the game. So I don't want to hear anybody ever again anymore here in Minnesota complaining about how, God, I want to see Teddy light up a stat sheet and, just have a 300-yard, 3-4 touchdown game or whatever. I don't. I want to see him continue to throw 1 to 2 touchdowns a game, 0 interceptions, 200 yards, and we win. That's what I want to see. Again, the penalty yards, 8 penalties for 110 yards compared to 4 penalties for 19 measly stinking freaking yards. Time of possession was almost identical. And turnovers, the Vikings just had the 1 fumble. So moving to defense then for the Vikings, and we'll be done with Purple Vein. Going then to NFL Spew here in Balls on Fire. Or maybe technically putting Balls on Fire out and then going to the Spew. I don't know how it's working. We're just trying to get through it. But anyway, going to the defense, the defensive line as a unit played well, plus 18, 31 pluses to 13 minuses. However, they did not succeed in both as a unit and as a team, with the linebackers and the blitzing and stuff as well. They did not get very many sacks in the game. Again, I believe they only got like 2 sacks or something like that. And as good as they're supposed to be and can be, and as, havable as the Green Bay Packers line should have been, or at least looked on paper, no reason to only get 2 sacks, even though Aaron Rodgers is an extremely heady, savvy, and elusive, mobile, athletic quarterback. Like I said, a lot of the guys did particularly well. Let's see, who was the best defense? We had a tie for the best defensive lineman in the game, and they're both sub-package guys. They're both backups. Tom Johnson was a perfect 5-0 plus 5 grade for the game, as well as Danielle Hunter, third-round rookie draft pick, was a 5-0 plus 5 as well. Then in behind them, we had a couple 3+3s. Sharif Floyd with a 4/1 plus 3 grade. Everson Griffin with a 5/2 plus 3 grade. And Linval Joseph a 7/4 plus 3 grade. 4 minuses for Linval Joseph is actually out of character. Like I said, the one penalty that was senseless did not help at all. Linval started out weak, but got really good throughout the rest of the game then. Sharif Floyd playing well, coming back from his injury now for his second week. However, I still don't see the explosiveness off the ball that just knocked me out of my chair half of the time when watching him on film in the first part of the season before he went out with his injury. So still a little room yet there for him, I think, to get more healthy, but he's being productive. And then your one bad defensive lineman this last week, as is almost every week here this season, is B-Rob, Brian Robison. He had 5 pluses, which is pretty good, 2 6 minuses with a -1 rating. So like I said, overall they played well, but B-Rob stunk, and they need to do a better job of getting to the passer as well. And then we get to the linebackers. Oh boy, this was supposed to be a strength of our team, and ironically enough, it was a strength of our team until we did what I said made no sense and we should have never done, and that was trade Gerald Hodges for nothing. We would have been much better off just keeping him, having him for depth and experience on this team. But oh no, let's get rid of him for absolutely nothing. Kendricks is the man. He's just going to play all the time, and then whenever we need a third guy, we'll throw Greenway in there, who is much past his prime, might I add, but still capable of productive, efficient weeks of football. So this last week, our 2 super stud linebackers were out there in the nickel package almost the entire game. At least the entire first half, we were in the nickel package defensively the whole time. So it's just Barr and Kendricks out there. That's it. No Greenway at all, even though he's healthy, and we sub in at all the D-line positions. Anthony Barr had 8 pluses over 9 minuses, 2 of which were penalties. One of those penalties was an offside on a 4th and 1 that was just completely stupid. And then the other one was that third down illegal contact that was in fact illegal contact upon further review by yours truly. So he ended up with a -1 grade. You gotta love the 8 pluses, sitting there for him, but the 9 minuses, ouch. So an overall -1. And then we get, Chad Greenway did come in second half. He did register 1 plus and no minuses. But then we get to our rookie starting middle linebacker, Eric Kendricks, who was going for, and I believe may have set the new record for minus plays and minus, overall end result minus grade by any individual player that is not a quarterback. He recorded 4 pluses to 16 minuses. That's right, 16 plays defensively. Eric Kendricks messed up. It was his fault. If you go back and you're like, well, why did this happen? Why was this the result? It was Eric Kendricks' fault. 16 times it was Eric Kendricks' fault for a